You know the funny thing, Island? I never thought being called broke would bother me that much. I mean, I grew up broke. Raised by a single mom who worked two jobs and still managed to put dinner on the table. Broke didn't scare me. Broke taught me how to fix things with duct tape and make coffee last 3 days. But it hits different when the person calling you broke is your wife. Especially when she says it with that look. You know the one. Chin tilted slightly, half smile like she's joking, but also, not really. It happened on a Tuesday. I remember that because I had just gotten home from checking on a plumbing issue in one of the rentals. Still had my boots on, mud on the cuff of my jeans. She was sitting at the kitchen counter, scrolling her phone with a glass of wine in her hand. Barely looked up when I walked in. "You smell like a crawl space," she said. I laughed. Said, "I was in one." She didn't laugh. Just went back to scrolling and said, "We need to talk about this rent situation. You've been short 2 months now." I froze. Not because I didn't have the money, but because it was her tone. Like she was my landlord. Not my partner, not my wife. I said, "I've been investing more into the properties lately. Flipping one in East Lake. Cash flow's tight till it sells." She raised an eyebrow. "So, you're broke." And then she laughed. Just like that. 3 words and a chuckle that hit harder than any punch. I didn't say anything right away, just stood there, letting it sink in. Then I nodded and said, "Okay, that's all." Just, okay. She didn't notice. Or maybe she did and didn't care. Either way, she poured more wine and turned on the television like it was just another night. But for me, something shifted. See, I'd never pretended to be rich. Never claimed to be some baller. I wore the same 3 pairs of jeans, drove a truck with a dent in the bumper, and used a cracked phone screen for a year before upgrading. But broke? Nah. I was building. Quietly. Carefully. I had 5 rental units by then, all under LLCs, all cash flowing. Not enough to retire, but enough to know I was on the right track. I just didn't talk about it. Because I believed that if someone truly cared, they'd see your effort, not just your earnings. I guess she didn't. Or maybe she stopped looking somewhere along the way. I sat on the edge of the bed that night, just thinking. She was in the bathroom, doing her skincare routine, humming to herself. And I kept hearing it play over in my head. "So, you're broke." Like I was some kid with empty pockets begging for gas money. I picked up my phone, opened my banking app, and stared at the numbers. They weren't huge, but they were mine. And I thought, what if I just walked away? What if I stopped trying to prove anything to anyone? I didn't sleep much that night. Just laid there, staring at the ceiling fan, counting the turns. Thinking about how many times I'd let things slide, how many jokes I'd laughed off, how many times I'd paid rent on a place I didn't even feel welcome in. You ever feel like a stranger in your own home? That's what it had become. Her place, her rules, her judgment. And me? I was just temporary, like furniture that came with the lease. I made a decision the next morning. Quietly. No drama, no shouting, just a decision. I was going to leave, but not the way she expected. Not with bags and a broken heart. I was going to leave smart, calculated, clean. And the best part? I already knew exactly how, because while she was laughing, I'd been listening. While she was bragging to her friends about how I was still figuring things out, I was making offers on 2 new units through a trust. One of them, same building, just 2 floors up, with better light, better layout, and a view of the skyline that would make anyone shut up real quick. I moved forward that same week, made the down payment, finalized the paperwork, all in silence. She didn't notice. She was too busy posting another Instagram story about carrying the team. I watched her say it into the camera. "Some of us date for love, some of us date potential. I guess I'm doing charity work." I smiled, saved the clip, and kept packing. Not clothes. Not yet, but plans. Backup keys. Change of address forms. The little things. The quiet things. The stuff people don't notice when they're too busy talking. Because truth is, the best exits are the ones no one sees coming. And I was about to make mine. The day I left didn't look like a movie scene. No slammed doors, no suitcase in the rain, no teary-eyed goodbye. It was just a Thursday. Overcast. Slight breeze. I made her coffee like I always did. 2 sugars, no cream. Set it on the counter next to her laptop, kissed the top of her head, and said, "Gonna check on a property. Might be gone a while." She barely looked up. Just mumbled something like, "Try not to come back covered in mud this time." I smiled, walked out, and that That was it. I didn't go to a property. I went straight to the leasing office, same building, 2 floors up. The unit was ready. Furniture already delivered the day before. I'd paid extra for rush service. Everything was in place. Clean, minimal, quiet, you know, peaceful. I stood by the window for a good 10 minutes, just staring out. Same view. But somehow, from this angle, it felt like a different world. That night, I didn't go back. I stayed in my new place, alone. Ordered takeout. Saturday on the floor because the couch hadn't been assembled yet. And I felt calm, not happy, not sad, just calm. Like I could finally hear my own thoughts without her commentary in the background. I didn't block her, didn't text her, didn't explain. I just vanished. But here's where it gets interesting. You'd think she'd notice, right? A missing husband, empty bed, no more muddy boots by the door. But nope. Took her 3 days. 3. On day 4, she texted me, "Where are you? I haven't seen you all week." I replied, "Moved into a new place." "That's it," she called. "I didn't pick up." Texted again. "What do you mean? Are you okay? What's going on?" I waited. Let her wonder. Then finally said, "Same building. 2 floors up. Nothing for 5 minutes." Then she wrote, "You're joking." I didn't respond. Truth Island. I wasn't joking. I was done joking. Done explaining. Done trying to prove I was more than some punchline in her group chat. A few days passed. She didn't reach out again. I thought that was it. Clean break, but then, the twist. She showed up at my door, hair done, lip gloss on. That same smile she used when she wanted something. "Can we talk?" she asked. I nodded. Let her in. She looked around. Noticed the couch, the bar stools, the custom lighting. "This place island. Nice," she said. I shrugged. "Thanks." She hesitated, then sat on the edge of the couch like she wasn't sure if she belonged there. I didn't offer her a drink. Didn't ask how she'd been. Just waited. She cleared her throat. "So, you're really living here now?" I nodded. She glanced out the window. "Same view, but this one's better." I stayed quiet, let her feel the silence, and then she said it. "I'm having trouble keeping up with the rent. The landlord raised it again. I thought maybe we could work something out." That's when I knew. She didn't know. She had no idea who owned her unit. I almost laughed, but I didn't. I leaned forward and said, "I'll talk to the landlord. Maybe he'll give you a deal." She smiled. "You do that for me?" I smiled back. "Sure, I'll talk to him tonight." She hugged me, held on a little longer than necessary, then walked out. I locked the door behind her, sat her down, and laughed. Not the bitter kind of laugh, the free kind. Because you see, I was the landlord. Through a holding company, registered out of state, completely invisible to her. I'd bought the unit she lived in 6 months earlier. Quietly, strategically, it had good bones. Needed some upgrades, but nothing major. And the rent? Let's just say, it helped cover my mortgage. I remember sitting there, thinking, this is it. This is the moment. She laughed when she thought I was broke, mocked me, dismissed me, made me feel small. But now, she was paying me. Monthly, automatically. Rent. To the man she once said would never amount to more than dirty boots and drywall. You can't script that better, and I didn't even have to say a word. That's the beauty of patience, of quiet growth, of playing the long game. She never found out. Not really. I kept things professional. Renewed the lease through the property manager. Small increase. Nothing dramatic. She signed it. Didn't even blink. Just another tenant in my ledger, another deposit in my account. And me? I kept moving. Bought another unit. Started mentoring young guys who wanted to get into real estate. Started speaking at local meetups. Not to brag. Just to share what I'd learned. And every month, on the first, like clockwork, her payment came in. Clean. Precise. Irony with a comma and 2 decimal places. Some nights I'd sit by the window, lights off, drink in hand, and look down toward her balcony. Lights on, television flickering. Sometimes I'd see her pacing. On the phone. Still talking. Always talking. And I'd think, I don't need to win the argument, I just need to own the building. Truth is, I didn't plan on keeping her there forever. I thought maybe she'd move on, find a new place, start fresh like I did. But months passed, and she stayed. Same balcony. Same parking spot, Same routine, like nothing had changed. Except everything had. She still didn't know. Didn't realize she was living in an apartment owned by the guy she once mocked for being just a handyman with dreams. I mean, maybe she suspected something. Once or twice she'd text me random questions. Do you know who owns this building? Or, is it weird my rent checks go to an out-of-state company? I'd play dumb. Say something like, yeah, a lot of landlords do that for tax reasons. She'd accept it, move on. Never question me too hard. I think deep down, she didn't want to know. Because if she knew, she'd have to face it. Everything. The way she talked down to me. The way she treated me like some project she outgrew. The way she weaponized her success as proof of mine not being enough. And maybe she wasn't ready to sit with that. I get it. Shame has a way of whispering in the quiet. I wasn't angry anymore. That's the strange part. I thought I would be. I thought revenge would taste sweet. But it didn't. It just tasted like closure. Soft. Subtle. Quiet. Not some grand movie scene where I throw my success in her face. No dramatic reveal, just a bank account and peace of mind. And every month, a little reminder. You know what changed me most? It wasn't the money. It was the silence. The ability to live without explaining myself. To not be the punchline. To not have to prove my worth in a 5-minute dinner conversation. I started cooking again. Something I'd stopped doing because she always criticized it. Too salty, too plain. But now, I made meals the way my mom used to. Simple, honest, and they tasted like something real. I even adopted a dog. Big guy, boxer mix. Named him Winston. He snores like a truck and drools on the couch, but man, he waits by the door when I come home like I'm somebody. You ever feel that? That kind of welcome? It hits different when you haven't felt it in years. I started to smile more. Laugh without feeling like I was interrupting something. And I stopped checking her social media. That took a while. But eventually, I didn't care what she posted. Didn't care who she was with or where she vacationed. I was free. But here's the kicker. The twist no one expects. About a year later, she sent me a long message. No greeting. Just one line. I found out. My stomach dropped. For a second, I thought she meant everything. That she'd pieced it all together. That the web I'd spun so carefully had finally unraveled. I replied, "Found out what?" She wrote, "That the apartment is owned by a holding company you're connected to. I saw a document in the mail when the manager left it in my box by mistake." I waited. She continued, "I should have known. You always played the long game." I didn't deny it. Didn't confirm it either. Just wrote, "Does it bother you?" Her answer? Number. Honestly, it makes sense now. Then she sent another text, right after. "I'm moving out next month. Figured I'd say thanks. For not throwing it in my face." I stared at that one for a long time. Thanks, for not throwing it in my face. I mean, she wasn't wrong. I could have. I had every right to. But I didn't. Not because I'm some saint, but because. What's the point? The win wasn't in the rub-in. The win was in the rebuild. Quiet, solid, mine. She moved out 2 weeks early, left the place spotless. Even left a small plant on the counter with a note that said, "I hope it grows." That one got me. I'm not gonna lie. I stood there in that empty unit holding that note, and I felt something shift. Not anger, not pride, just something like closure, like the last piece of a puzzle falling into place. I walked through the apartment one last time before repainting it for the next tenant, and for the first time since she laughed, I didn't hear her voice in my head, just mine. Calm, clear, confident. You know, people think revenge has to be loud, explosive, a gotcha moment, but sometimes the best revenge is just becoming everything they said you couldn't be, and letting them see it from the apartment you own, 2 floors below. That's it. That's the story. No fireworks, just footsteps, moving forward, and a quiet laugh. This time, from me.